Hey, Internet! It's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here talking about the newly dropped Netflix series,
Yes.
Maniac.
Yes.
She's a maniac, maniac. We have to come up with a song that's not the actual title every time. So, like Fraggle Rock was down on Castle Rock.
That's right.
So this one's Maniac, Maniac.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
And yeah, we're going to talk about episodes 1 and 2, The Chosen One,
Yes.
and Windmills. So this series, it is directed. Showrunner is Carrie.
Yeah.
We'll say showrunner is.
He's the creator of the series. So.
Okay. Cary Fukunaga, who also did True Detective, and is signed on to do the next Daniel Craig James Bond movie. I believe it's the 25th James Bond movie, so Special 25. Anyway, this does not feel like True Detective or James Bond.
No, neither one.
say.
No, definitely not.
So if you're in it going, oh, it's about...
Well, to
a
the
spy
extent that what's going on, what the heck, what?
Oh, sure.
We don't have a
There's
yellow man
I
or
got you.
anything, but, you know.
I would say, though, the point of this is not necessarily the mystery of it. There is a mystery. There is a bit of a mystery, but I don't think it's. I don't think that's
Many.
like the mystery in a box is really the central point.
Doesn't
There's a
seem
lot
that
of
way
it's-
yet.
There's a lot of points.
Yes, there are.
Yeah, but it is a sci-fi venture. It is unlike a lot of sci-fi that we've maybe covered in that it's not
Sure.
like there's not a superhero
No.
or there's whatever.
No, I mean, to me, this series does have some parallels, although it's not as into the future as Altered Carbon. But, you know, we are talking about how rich people have a little more access to technology and you know, the things that poor people have to do to survive, you know.
True.
There's a definite question of alternate reality, so...
Right, there is the is it all in his head, which we've covered in Legion, Counterpart, Leftovers.
Yeah, leftovers too.
Anyway, so that theme keeps seeming to come up in stuff that we cover, but so be it. So the idea, we have Jonah Hill, we got Emma Stone, Gabriel Byrne. I'm a big fan of Gabriel Byrne.
Yes.
All the way back from his young man's appearance in the movie Excalibur.
Okay.
So he'll always be known for that for me. All right, anyway. And a cool series, In Treatment. Depressing, but cool that HBO did.
Favorite Coen Brothers movie, Miller's Crossing.
Miller's Crossing. Bang.
What's the significance of the hat?
Yeah, right. So yes, Gabriel Byrne, awesome. So he plays
And a
Jonah
really
Hill's
crappy
dad.
version of La Femme Nikita.
Let's see if we can try to sum this up a little bit. You've got the idea that Jonah Hill is the son. He's one of six brothers in a rich family.
Yeah.
He is the odd man out of this family.
Yes.
He doesn't seem to fit in any way, shape, or form.
He has a problem with telling what's real and what's not.
True. We also know he had a psychotic break
Yes.
10 years-ish ago. And he got hospitalized
Yes.
and he got medicated and supposedly he's better. But we see, from his point of view, reasons to suggest he's not all better.
No.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So we open with he is actually being interrogated. It's a mock interrogation.
Yeah.
They're questioning him in preparation for a trial.
Yes.
His brother, Jed, is on trial for something. We're not sure what, but we learn that it's a woman who's they feel like this woman, she's just trying to get hers or whatever. So it sounds like there's a woman trying to get cash. I'm going to guess there's it's either sexual harassment or sexual assault or something major like that. That is, it's a civil suit and they're trying to protect their money. And so what we also learn a little bit later on here is that they're asking Owen, that's Jonah Hill's character's Owen, they're asking Owen to lie.
Yeah.
Owen, give your brother an alibi. And we also get the feeling the brother probably did whatever this is.
Oh, yeah. I
Like,
think so.
Like, he did the thing. Now we just have to get him off. Here's how we do it. We'll take the really shy he'll do anything because he wants to avoid conflict, brother, and have him take one for the family. And so he basically, Owen's like, fine, I will lie for the family.
And interestingly, he doesn't really like being part of the family. They definitely are a family of means, but he, gets his own jobs.
He refuses to take the money.
Yeah.
And in fact, the father, Gabriel Byrne, tries to like, hey, if you want a new place. And Owen interprets it as, and maybe correctly so, that his brother's trying to, or his dad's trying to buy him off, with the, hey, if you're going to help Jed, so in response for that.
Yeah, and a number of the family members are like, why don't you move closer? And why don't you, why are you working? What's going on?
There's a great absurdist, and there's a lot of absurdist elements in this, which are fun. But one of the first clues that you're seeing something absurdist is that there's this big family painting of the family all in the living room, and there's and then he's not in it. He is in this tiny little extra picture on the side. So he wasn't there picture day, and so they just did a picture of him on the side, and then he says, "Oh, the painter's gonna paint me in eventually. He's on vacation right now, but eventually, like he'll never get around to painting him into the picture." So that gives you also the idea how out Owen is. Also, there's on this family occasion, he's hanging out with the kids. He feels more comfortable hanging out with the little children as opposed to hanging out with the adults. He seems to be somewhat infatuated with Jed's fiance. There's a really kind of intense moment there where he's like, just hypothetically, what if you stole all of Jed's money and we ran away and we just started a new life somewhere? And there's a beat. You can tell like each one is like, he's serious. She's like, you're screwing with me. He sees that she's not into this, and so he's like, yep, you're right. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha. Not kidding. He seems to want to have a different life. Like the life he's inhabiting is not one that is appealing to him.
Yes.
He's also on permanent furlough from his job, which sounds kind of like Mr. Red Stapler from Office Space. Yeah.
And we see, at least a few times where his reality, at least his perception of reality, is very disturbing. Where the things are bubbling up.
Right, you see the cup of water, glass of water starts to boil up. He also has a recurring invisible friend, which is his brother Jed in disguise, who will show up and tell him
looking
things.
Different.
Sure, I think almost like in disguise, but sure, looking different. He's got a mustache. I don't know, just kind of like he was trying to. I guess he does say, "I'm invisible to everyone else." So if he thinks that, then he probably wouldn't care about disguising himself.
Yeah.
But he just looks different than Jed.
Yeah, because I think it's supposed to be some other brother that doesn't exist. So it's like his brother, Jed, but it's not. So it's like, this is a brother that I have that's not Jed.
Oh, okay. You don't think it's Jed then? Okay. I kind of got the opinion that it was his version of Jed. But
no.
Okay. All right. But it's one way or another, it's some amalgam of a family member.
Yes.
That is coming to give him, missions.
Yes.
Basically. But we also do see, just in case you're like, oh, is that a real guy? He does disappear each time into thin air. Yes. So I believe that is the show telling us he's not real.
Yes. I think you're right.
Okay. Good. It's all in his head. Okay. So in one of these visits, this brother Jed shows up and it's like, all right, there'll be a female agent.
Yes.
She's going to give you further instructions. You got to save the universe. And just know the code word is the pattern is the pattern. So the pattern is the pattern is this kind of phrase that has a lot of significance for Owen.
Yes.
So we got the family. He's set up to do this. So he hasn't, we know that the trial is in a week. Because he says, I'll be out of town on business but I'll be back in time for the trial.
One of the interesting things they create in this world is a means of making money, which is basically putting yourself in the company of someone who will read ads to you. So
Ad Buddy.
Yes.
And it's not just Ad Buddy. There's a competitor.
There is,
like
yes.
Ad Pal or something like that.
Yes, Ad Pal, right. Yeah. And then there's a third, what do you call it, service that figures in the next episode, which is a friend. You can rent a friend or whatever.
You rent a friend, and also he being Owen, after he gets on permanent furlough, hence fired. One of the things he considers doing is to be the pretend husband of widows.
Yes.
So he's like, oh yeah, sounds like a cool gig, and I can just, in other words, he can reinvent himself again each time. He can be a new person. I'll just hang out with this widow for a while, then I'll go to another one. But yeah, the pretend spouse of a recently widowed person. But yes, Ad Buddy, very, again, absurd, but not that absurd, maybe, I don't know. Basically, the service knows everything about you, kind of Facebook style. They know all these facts about you.
Why would it need to be an actual person?
Yeah, right. In their world, the technology isn't smartphones as much as it's a guy that sits down next to you on the train,
or a woman,
and tells you ads. So in other words, he couldn't pay for his subway pass, but he's like, oh, I guess I gotta do the Ad Buddy. Then he has to wait. And so I assume trains go by while he waits. A guy shows up, the briefcase. They sit down. He pulls out some ads, and he starts reading ads. And they work because the thing this guy tells him is the direction that Owen actually ends up taking. So good on Ad Buddy, I guess. But Ad Buddy, later on too, we also find that the other main character in this series, Emma Stone's Annie, she has an Ad Buddy. She's getting an Ad Buddy lunch to eat her noodles.
Yes.
And she's like, wait, you guys do anything? Like, if I were to go to Salt Lake City and rent a car, and you'd have someone that could do, like, yep. Like, okay then, great. So she's trying to come up with a way to do stuff all through Ad Buddy.
Yes.
So that exists. Owen is without a job, but he's got, we find out his rent for this tiny little apartment he's got out of cinder blocks is still like 87% of his,
it's 78,
or some huge amount of his income, paycheck, which he no longer gets.
Yeah.
So he's desperate for money. Ends up, after kind of Ad Buddy kind of forces it on him a little bit, it seems like he ends up going to this experimental testing facility.
Yes. That he seems very well suited for.
NPB, Neberdyne Pharmaceutical Biotech. Meanwhile, Annie is also motivated to go to Neberdyne. We see it in a little out of order because we see her there first, and then we kind of see that it flashes back to how she got there.
In the second episode, yes.
But she's basically going there looking for drugs. She's hooked on this particular drug that comes in little A format.
Yes.
We learn later it's agonia or something like that. It makes you revisit your traumas from the past. Which doesn't sound that great, but she likes revisiting this particular memory in particular, which we'll talk about.
Yes.
But she's run out of that drug. There's no way to the best way to do it apparently is to get into this trial where they're handing out this drug, and then she can get them for free because they're really expensive. She's like, oh, great. So she ends up blackmailing a woman into getting her into this program.
Yes.
So the story seems to be about Annie and Owen.
Yes.
And Owen obviously interprets Annie's presence as being, she's the female contact.
Yes.
That imaginary Jed told him about.
Yes.
I know this is, if you haven't watched this and you're just relying on us talking about this, you're like,
that's a mistake.
What is this about?
Yeah.
And it is a little tricky to talk about. It's like, and how is it sci-fi exactly? Well, it's sci-fi because this, for one thing, this world they're in is not really our Earth.
No.
It's an alternate Earth. there's no Statue of Liberty. There's the Statue of Extra Liberty. And it's this really like blinged out statue with giant wings. And it's like, and they're like, look, it's the Statue of Extra Liberty. So it's making fun of this world. And so it's an alternate Earth in a way. And the technology is odd. It doesn't really tell you what time it's in. The fact that there's
if you use our world as an example, then you'd be very confused about the technology. But that's why I think it's not really our world,
right?
In that they have, it's.
In other words, is it the alternate world, modern day, or is it alternate world,
future,
80s or whatever? I don't know. They just kind of leave that, kind of like Legion did, where it was like, hey, we're not really telling you what time this is in. We're going to show you some retro stuff, and then, he's using a weird phone, but then on the other hand, they have computers. Anyway.
Or like Counterpart, where for some reason they have all cell phones, at least some people do anyway, and they're putting information into these old mainframes.
So it's there seems to be a little bit of a tradition now, perhaps coming about in some sci-fi that try to make it timeless or something. That's what this is doing. So the lab itself, this NPB experiment, which the experiment is to eradicate all unnecessary forms of human pain. I believe that is their mission statement, which in itself is a little because it's not eradicate all forms of pain. It's unnecessary forms of pain. So just leave the necessary ones.
Sure. There you go.
But so that's a mission statement, and there's we have Justin Theroux.
Yes.
Leftovers.
Yes.
Dr. Mantle-Ray, I believe.
Yes.
And he there's some very silly orientation videos that are legit funny. In fact, I think it's the very first bit of dialogue is Justin Theroux in the narration.
Yes.
And he does this thing where he's like, in the beginning, there was an amoeba, and that. Oh wait, sorry, I'm skipping too many connections. Let me back it up. The fact that he went back in an amoeba was not far enough back.
The Big Bang.
Yeah, so he has to then go back in time and come forward.
Yes.
So all the connections that you can make.
All the collisions
required.
Yeah.
Was very funny. And then the orientation itself, there's a great moment at the end of the orientation video where there's the two doctors, Dr. Mantle-Ray and Dr. Fujita. There's a kind of a Japanese-inspired vibe about the whole place. Really, like in other words, it's all Japanese investors have done this thing.
I was very amused in the orientation that they told them that they could bring shame on themselves.
Yeah, it was like, not only will you be removed from this experiment, but you will also bring shame and humiliation upon yourself.
Yes. Whoa.
Okay then. Well, that's a reason not to put on the wrong outfit. But in the orientation video, it's very flashy, but with kind of 80s style graphics.
Yes.
And Justin Theroux's got this mop of hair he keeps pushing aside. But at the very end, he's summing it up, and he's got this pen. He's trying to do the traditional put the pen in your pocket as you finish your speech, and that's why NPB's on the move or whatever. But he misses, so he can't find the pocket. So it's like, and that's why NPB's on the move. Like he never actually, and the fact that they left that take, just were like, just let him not put the pen in there. Also is suggestive of how kind of half-assed this thing is. We also hear that there have been all kinds of problems. Like, let's not have the previous problems with this testing.
Yes.
No more suicides. Where like you get the feeling like, bad things have happened, and they're constantly reassuring this test subjects like, it's fine.
Yes.
Like the one point in order to get Annie into the program, the blackmailed woman has to remove the badge from somebody else and give it to her. So she's like, "You've been upgraded to a much safer program." With a lot of, like, what do you mean safer?
And the person he's like, "What do you mean safer?"
Yeah.
What?
It's fine. Nothing. It's nothing. Which also actually, goes into the name, Owen's name. His family name is the Milgrams. They're the Milgrams. which to me automatically, I thought of Milgram 7, the Milgram's experiment, which was kind of the famous social experiment where people were asked to come in and push this button whenever it lights up. And whenever they push this button, they would see on the other side of a window people reacting in pain. People weren't actually in pain, but they were told, hey, if you see the button, pretend to act in pain. And the point was, how many times can you make somebody just keep pushing a button to cause somebody pain for no reason? And the answer is a lot.
Yeah.
And so that seems to definitely play into this idea of the social experiment that's happening. And everybody's like, okay, fine. What? I take this pill and it takes away all necessary forms of pain? Great. No follow-up questions. We were told about what the orientation is for us as well, right? So it tells us what this experiment's going to be. There's 3 steps.
Yes.
There's ABC. There's, I forgot, the agonia. Then there's I forgot, the confrontation or something at the end. But the second one, anyway, there's we're in phase 1 of this plan at the moment. Yeah. And phase 1 is you take this pill that reminds you of your past demons, basically, your worst experiences, and let you relive them. And so episode 2 is essentially, more or less, it's Annie taking the pill, which she finally goes, that's what the whole point was doing this. I want to take the pill. She finally gets to take the pill, and then she relives kind of the worst day of her memory, which is this day that she had this horrible fight with her sister. Her
being a complete cunt to her sister.
So to speak. Language, sir? Okay.
No!
And then it resulted in a horrible traffic accident.
Yes.
And boy, it looks like from what we saw, it would be tough for the sister to survive it. Now, we know in what would be present day, by the show terms, she was thinking about going to Salt Lake City to visit her sister. Maybe she's visiting her sister's grave. Maybe she's visiting her sister in a hospital where she's like a permanent resident. But seems like probably something permanently bad happened to the sister as a result of that traffic accident, which happened as a result of them fighting, which happened as a result of her being horrible to her sister, and saying just mean as hell things to her. So that's that part. Now, I assume episode 3, I think you've seen episode 3, but
I have.
We're not going to talk about it here, but I'm just going to guess that episode 3 will involve Owen taking the pill and recounting his worst day, perhaps, or do they leave that?
Just assume that happened in episode 2.
So it does. Okay. Episode 3 will probably involve Owen's worst day. Now, I would guess that's probably his psychotic break. We probably see what happened to his 10 years ago, what made him break. But there is also this interesting bit that comes in, which I take to be important. When Owen is, before he joins on for this experiment, he's back, he's visiting the family that he hates, and they tell a story of Jed is telling the story of, hey, remember that time when you had that hawk that ate my gerbil? And it turns out that Owen, at age 8, rescued a hawk with a broken wing.
Yes.
It was in the park or something, and he raised it as his own. Nursed it back to health, and then it's like, whatever happened to that hawk? Oh, we let it go. We we released it to the wild, was what Jed said.
That's what he said, yeah.
Yeah.
Very suspiciously.
It did sound suspicious, and then the little kid who asked the question was like, okay. So I think that's a really important emotional moment and a character tell for Owen. Whatever that, I think that's going to be important, especially because when I was watching Annie's flashback, when she takes the pill and goes and has her horrible moment, she's having this horrible argument with her sister in a hotel room. And one of the things that's playing on the TV, her sister's like, oh, I love this. And she's watching it and like, oh, you like these crappy fantasies. Okay. The movie playing on, the crappy fantasy that's playing on the TV that they play the entire time during the argument is Hawk the Slayer.
I thought you were going to say the Bears or something.
Oh, you mean like the Berenstain Bears?
Yeah, the Berenstain Bears.
The Mandela effect? Maybe? No. It was Hawk the Slayer, which, unless the Mandela effect hit Hawk the Slayer, had Jack Palance as your evil villain. Voltan, I think, maybe? That's a deep cut. I don't know. I think that might have been his name. Anyway, there's also an elf that could shoot arrows really fast, but they didn't have digital technology back then, so it's all like this really cheesy. So if you're watching like CGI movies today, and you're like, yeah, CGI. I wonder why they go back and watch Hawk the Slayer, and you'll know why people said CGI. Thank the Lord. Anyway, the fact that there's Hawk the Slayer, and you even hear this hawk in the background while they're arguing, I think that was somehow significant to this hawk being important. Hawk the Slayer. Why did they pick Hawk the Slayer? It's a very specific, very obscure movie. The fact that you try to pick a movie that has the name Hawk in the title. There's a few, but that one in particular, and the fact that it's a fantasy, and this is kind of a fantastical thing. I feel like the Hawk has importance. That's what I'm saying. Going forward, I'm going to roll the dice. I'm rolling a 20. I'm going with that Hawk experience informs a lot of Owen's arc. Maybe has something to do with the psychotic break he had. I don't know for a fact yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if something Hawk-related maybe resulted in that break.
What were you questioning about now that I pulled it up?
Oh, Voltan? Was that the...
Yeah, Voltan is the
Oh, boom! I get it right. I win the internet for the day. Hawk Slayer villain, Voltan, who is also the brother of Hawk.
Oh.
That was the deal. The big
John
villain
Terry
is really his brother.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's Jed. I don't know. All right. We're reading way too much into Hawk the Slayer.
Yes,
now,
exactly. Now we will do that alternately.
Yeah. Well,
first episode of Hawk the Slayer.
That's what we're going to review. So yes.
Start singing that theme song.
I cannot do that, unfortunately. I'm over my skis on Hawk the Slayer now. So yeah, these are two dysfunctional people that are now in this program together. She being Annie is feeding into his thinking that she's the agent because she's worried that she's going to get found out.
Yep.
She's like, I'm here kind of because I blackmailed my way in. If people start looking too closely at me, I'm going to get kicked out of this program.
Yep.
So when Owen is coming to her like, okay, the pattern is the pattern. You're my contact. She's like, yes, just shut up and go over there and await instruction. So she's feeding into this thing, and he's totally buying it. Yeah. He's like, yep, it all makes sense now. You're the person. Got it. And one of the reasons he thinks she's the person is that he keeps seeing her face on advertisements around the city. And we haven't gotten to this in episode 2, but you mentioned that they kind of explain that.
Yes, they
later.
do. They do.
So it's not an all in its head thing. She is actually on these ads. Okay. Obviously, Don Quixote, the book is very important. She's looking through trash that's outside of the Milgram's house.
Yes.
She finds his Rubik's Cube, which we then later see him playing with. It's another one of those, is that all in his head?
Yep.
And she finds Don Quixote. And in fact, the second episode being entitled Windmills, Don Quixote tilting at windmills, very a popular expression. The idea of your fantasy life maybe interfering with you not being able to tell the difference between reality and fantasy.
Yes.
And at the moment, we have two people that are definitely, they've been jumped into an experiment that definitely tests that in itself.
Yes.
Interesting character note for them as well, actually, when they're being tested to see if they work in the program. One of the questions is not a question. Right? And so it's like, all right, now look into my eyes.
Yes.
Pay real careful as I give you the final question. And then the whole point of the thing is that you just sit there and wait until the other person reacts.
Yes.
And so, based on their reactions,
Owen was great.
Got the green light, and Annie was not great,
no.
and got a red light. But I noted the way she said it, the way that the intake woman said, like when Owen passed, she said, your
defenses.
Your self-defense mechanism is very fungible.
Yes,
something
that's
like
true.
that.
Yeah.
Which suggested to me like you're not like Annie seems to be more like defensive. Maybe she's more
maybe
got her armor on, her emotional armor.
Could be.
Whereas Owen is maybe more open. I don't know. I was trying to read into that. Annie, apart from this strange thing from her sister, we do see that one of the reasons she's estranged from her sister is apparently that's another animal thing. But you had the hawk and why it disappeared. In the case of Owen, you have this dog and why it disappeared in the case of Annie. She's putting up, have you seen my dog signs, even though from the actual sign, it's showing that the dog, it's like, here's a picture from 7 years ago. Here's a drawing of what it might look like today. So you're like, okay, this dog's been gone for 7 years, maybe. Not likely to find it. And so when she's arguing with her sister 5 years ago, that dog thing comes up. She says, "Oh, and about your dog." So it sounds like she lost her sister's dog in some way, or maybe deliberately lost the dog. I mean, maybe that was a problem. But it's just kind of interesting that both of them had this animal that they were looking after, and that animal is gone. That maybe a similarity there. And both of them are kind of haunted by their siblings. I don't know. But also Annie's dad, she visits her dad trying to get money for drugs. And her dad, if he exists, is in a place, another very absurd but very funny thing called the Avoid. The Avoid, which is this big isolation tank that he just sits in his backyard. And she talks to him through the tank. Like, and you can see a little light up panel comes on, and it's like da da da, and they're talking, and she's like, well, anyway, you wanted to get together, we can go out to this restaurant when I get back. He's like, yeah, I'm really busy. The guy who's sitting in an isolation.
And it becomes important, at least just remember that the topic of her mother comes in. So her mother, that Annie believes that her sister is trying to make up with.
Right.
And that the father is so upset about her leaving that he changes the combination to the safe from her mother's to the daughter's birthday.
Yes, right. So it sounds like the mother ran off for whatever reason. Annie does not forgive her for that. Her sister did forgive her, or was starting to. Like, I had one conversation with her. That's right. And the dad is trying to get over the wife's absence as well. Interesting. There was just we just finished watching Castle Rock, and Castle Rock had what's the combination on the safe? It's your birthday. Apparently, that's the combination of all safes. Just find the wife's birthday, and you'll get into the safe. But so that's the family dynamic there. They both are coming from, also another parallel to them, they're both coming from dysfunctional families. And that's kind of the state of affairs. It's an inventive series. It's visually interesting. Got some solid actors in it. I like it. I like what I'm seeing.
I'm very fond of it.
It's creative. I don't know exactly where it's going. Is it just going to come out as like a conventional love story? These two people just find each other? Is it going to be he actually does save the universe? She is his agent contact, and they find themselves on a distant planet, shooting at aliens. I don't know.
Me either.
And that's cool.
Yes.
So Netflix. The other thing that's coming out October 19th, which we will almost certainly be covering here is Daredevil season 3. They bring back Kingpin, who I really, really liked as a villain.
Yeah, he was a good villain.
Vincent D'Onofrio did a great job, and I think will only continue to do a great job.
Sure.
So we'll cover this. We're going to be doing 2 episodes at a time, which has 10 episodes total.
Sure.
And then at some point we'll probably be doing both of these shows, but we'll just leap over into Daredevil season 3. So, yes. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.
Sure.
Maniac, everybody.
Maniac.
Maniac on the floor. Gotta dance. This is me moving fast.
There you go.
All right. Bye, everybody.